Shalom. All praises to Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem, Rekakodash. Double honors to the elder apostles, the bishops, and the elders of JMS who rule well. Peace and salutations to the elect. My name is Aina. The title of this video is The Board of Peace is Another Cry for Help. Right, and ultimately, Donald Trump is, coming out with this new, Board of Peace, which, we'll get into it. Read some of these articles I got here. And Donald Trump, since he has gotten into office, all he talks about is peace, the Nobel Peace Prize, right? The Gaza peace plan. Even the other nations are, doing. I believe it was Iran, Russia, and China, and I believe Africa, were joining them over there near Africa, and they were doing like military drills, and they were calling it some type of basically, drills of peace. I don't have the name. Let me see if I just look it up real quick. Iran, Russia, China, Africa, war drills of peace. All right, let's see. All right. Oh, the router is now, trying to make you pay for this, which is interesting. They don't want to give you the news because it's so bad, you know. And we'll see if we get this part right here. I'm pretty sure we're gonna what the host country describes as it will say something about peace. Let's see right here. Whatever the case may be, they're doing peace drills, these other nations. This is First Thessalonians 5:3. It says, "For when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them, as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape." All right, so these devils around the world, right, they're all talking about peace, but at the same time, the war in Ukraine is intensifying. Israel has not stopped doing what it's doing, and America has invaded multiple countries. They attacked Syria, they have attacked Iran, they have attacked Venezuela, right? They're thinking about attacking Greenland, they're thinking about attacking Canada, they're thinking about attacking Mexico, they're attacking themselves in America now with ICE, right? And ultimately, at least the flock will draw them out over there into that area, the Levant region, where they will most likely attack Iran in World War III, will start up. But that's what Donald Trump has done. Basically called it peace, and so far it has only been destruction. Now Donald Trump has this board of peace. So let's get some of this right here. So this a Russian news agency. Trump's Davos address aims to open new page in history. Political scientist, and it says U.S. President Donald Trump sought not just to intimidate Europe, but to start a new era in the world's history by delivering an address at this year's World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. Political scientists and experts with the Institute for the Economy of Growth told the Russian news agency. It says in his address, Donald Trump said in particular that he believed Greenland was part of North America and thus American territory. And in his view, Europe is moving in the wrong direction while the U.S. is interested in strong allies, so Europe needs to rethink policies. Now, there's no quotation marks or anything like that. I'll read what this is saying here, but I looked to see if this part here is something that he said, and I couldn't find it, but we'll get back to that. It says Trump is in fact resetting modern history, suggesting a new starting point. The system that was established after World War II is no longer effective. Trump is not just intimidating Europe, but has ditched political correctness to say where things really stand, the expert elaborated. So they're saying basically, it says, Guy warned against the illusion that Trump would be ready to settle for the Western Hemisphere because his goal is to secure global hegemony, right, which is total control that they want. They're saying Trump wants that. Now, the point that I want to look at right here says Europe is moving in the wrong direction while the U.S. is interested in strong allies. So Europe needs to rethink his policy. So when you have this new board of peace and the people that he has invited, Russia being one of them, and we see that he's trying to basically ditch the NATO EU alliance, which he had already said before all these things happened. Trump was already talking about leaving the alliance, and now he's threatening, Denmark, Greenland, right? So the tensions are already there. And it says Trump believes Putin accepted invitation to join Board of Peace, which they made a statement saying basically, no, we need to better outline what do you mean by this Board of Peace, what do you want to come from it, and all that. Until you do that, then basically no, is what they say. So U.S. President Donald Trump believes that Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin has accepted his invitation to join the Board of Peace. Trump said he would like to see influential and powerful figures among the body's members. So he was invited. He accepted. The U.S. leader told reporters on the sidelines of the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, which is not true, right? But nonetheless, this is just another cry for help. Let's get this article here. I got the precepts. Nahum, no healing of thy wound. Just bringing this out. No healing of thy bruise. But let's check this video out. Play a couple minutes of it.
Of the many things I wanted to talk to you about when I was away, this is high on the list. We have got to talk about the president's Board of Peace. It was initially approved by the United Nations to oversee solutions to the Israel-Hamas conflict. But there are some big questions about what the purpose actually is. According to a draft charter for the proposed group seen by Bloomberg, quote, the Trump administration is asking countries that want a permanent spot on Trump's Board of Peace to contribute at least $1 billion. Trump would serve as its inaugural chairman, and he would decide who's invited. Bloomberg also reports, quote, the draft appears to suggest Trump himself would control the money. Michael McFaul is back with us to discuss. He's, of course, the former U.S. ambassador to Russia and MS Now international affairs analyst. Michael, what do you think about this?
Crazy town, absolutely absurd, not in America's national interest, doesn't advance our security or our prosperity or our values. It seems to be a plot, a program to advance Mr. Trump, and I'm using Mr. on purpose, Mr. Trump's personal interests. It's not clear what the money's going to be used for. It's all vague. And on top of it all, he invited Putin to join. Putin, our alleged enemy who's about to annex Greenland if we don't do it first, he's now inviting Putin to join the peace committee, the peace board. It just makes no sense, and it'll go away after he's no longer president. I think it'd be very imprudent for any foreign leader to join.
Does it make no sense, or does it make perfect sense given who?
I just want to say, Trump isn't planning on going anywhere, right? He's been, different interviews came out where he was talking about the running for a third term, and saying, is it possible? We have APEC, saying they'll give such and such millions of dollars if he did run again. So in his mind and in their mind, the goals and plans that they're laying out right now is for the extended future, right? So that's why we can say this is another cry for help, because ultimately this is just, another way for them to try to build themselves up. If you've been watching, this is the conclusion that we have to come to. We have to take this dude, basically at what he's saying, pretty much, because the scriptures tell us a cruel Lord and King will rule, pursuant to Isaiah 19, right? And that is Nero 47, right? And he's doing just that, so we can't forget about the previous things he have said, like attacking Iran and going into Venezuela and saying we will get Denmark or Greenland, and saying that no more tanker ships in the ocean. And he's been taking up all type of tanker ships, even Russian ships. He still have taken more Russian tanker sanctioned ships. So this cruel Lord is ruling, and he plans on continuing to rule. So in my opinion, this Board of Peace thing is another way to hit himself. This is let's get it from Nahum 3 and 14. It says, "Draw thee waters for the siege, fortify thy strongholds, go into clay and tread the mortar, make strong the brickling." Right. So this is basically America preparing themselves for the war, right? Trying to get new allies and things like that, right? Which in his mind, that could be the case. That's why I say there's another cry for help. But we know that the least of the flock, which are the Amalekites over in the land of Israel, is going to draw them out to war and start that war with Iran. And this is something that his supposedly new allies definitely do not want, right? It says, "There shall the fire devour thee, right? The sword shall cut thee off, it shall eat thee up like a cankerworm. It says, make thyself many as a cankerworm, make thyself many as a locust." And you can, say that, a draft would come, right, by trying to make yourself many, and even with this Board of Peace trying to, gain these new allies. NOT says, "But the fire will devour you, the sword will cut you down, the enemy will consume you like locusts, devouring everything they see. There will be no escape, even if you multiply like swarming locusts." It says, "Thou hast multiplied thy merchants above the stars of heaven. The cankerworm spoileth and flieth away. Thy crown are as the locusts, they are in thy captains as the great grasshoppers, which camp in the hedges in the cold day. But when the sun arises, they flee away, and their place is not known where they are." Right. And a lot of, his generals and troops are, stepping down. Some are staying, some are leaving. Some are advising, against going to war. Right. And even Trump himself was about to attack Iran and turned away. Right. "Thy shepherds slumber, O king of Assyria, thy nobles shall dwell in the dust. Thy people will scatter upon the mountains, and no man gathers them. There is no healing of thy bruise, thy wound is grievous. All that hear the bruit of thee shall clap their hands over thee, for upon whom have not thy wickedness passed continually." Right. So there's no healing of the wound. Right. You grab this. It's Babylon judged for sins against Israel. Jeremiah 51:1. It says, "Thus saith the Lord Yahweh Bashar shall behold, I will raise up against Babylon and against them that dwell in the midst of." Let me read this again. It says, "Thus saith the Lord Yahweh Bashar shall behold, I will raise up against Babylon and against them that dwell in the midst of them that rise up against me a destroying wind." Ultimately, the nuclear missiles. It says, "And I will send unto Babylon fanners that shall fan her and shall empty her land. For in the day of trouble they shall be against her round about." Foreign troops, right? And ultimately the missiles. It says, "Against him that bendeth, let the archer bend his bow, and against him that lifted himself up in his bargaining," right, which is armor. It says, "And spare ye not her young men, destroy ye utterly all her hosts. Thus the slain shall fall in the land of the Chaldeans, and they that are thrust through in her streets. For Israel have been forsaken, nor Judah of his power." Slakia, it says, "For Israel have not been forsaken, nor Judah of his power. of the Lord Yahweh Bashanal Shah of hosts, though their land was filled with sin against the Holy One of Israel. Flee out of the midst of Babylon and deliver every man his soul. Be not cut off in her iniquity. Right? For this is the time of the Lord's vengeance. He will render unto her a recompense. Right? So basically, Babylon's sins has reached up unto heaven. Right? And the Lord Yahweh Bashanal Shah is about to judge this place, and there is no escape out of it. Right? There is no healing of this wound that the devil has. Right? And again, that's why I titled it this Board of Peace is just another cry for help. It says Babylon have been a golden cup in the Lord's hand that made all the earth drunken. Right? The nations have drunken of her wine, therefore the nations are mad. Yeah, because basically these devils are, upsetting the world, with the decision that they're making, right? The collapse of the dollar and them still trying to retain power, right? Blocking off trade, and then, basically setting up all these different things, the UN, international law, the law of the seas, all these things just to say, he doesn't need the UN or international law or the Constitution, and all of that. And the nations are upset about it. It says Babylon is suddenly fallen and destroyed. How for her to take balm for her pain, if so be she may be healed. It said we will have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. Forsake her and let us go, everyone into his own country, for her judgment reacheth unto heaven and is lifted up even to the skies. All right. So ultimately Babylon will be destroyed, and there's no getting, around this, no matter what they do.
Who Donald Trump is and what he wants to do. There's concerns that he wants to basically set up a rival or a replacement to the United Nations, except he's going to control it.
Well, that could very well be his personal preferences. That's a good point. Whenever I think about foreign policy, I think about the American national interests. I don't think about Trump's personal interests. And that, that's what the reporting says. He wants an alternative to the United Nations. But let's just be clear. If we're going it alone, we're acting like a unilateral imperialist all over the world. Who is going to want to join a club with us, with President Trump or Mr. Trump, if it's after his presidency? Nobody's going to want to play with us. Nobody's going to want to be on our team. And that's why this will be much ado about nothing. Not necessarily right now. Right now, there's going to be coercion. Bullies get their way in the short term, but in the long term, nobody's going to be a part of this. And by the way, I want to remind everybody, we may be pulling out of the United Nations, right? Trump just did that a couple of weeks ago. By the way, he pulled out of 40 multilateral organizations, and it was barely a blip on the screen because there's so much other news. But he may want to pull out of United Nations organizations and other multilateral organizations and create his own club, but nobody else does. Nobody else is going to follow him to join this club.
But let's go back to what you said in the middle. On one hand, we're saying nobody else is going to follow.
Right. And ultimately, that's why the nations are mad, because the devil is, ruling the world crazy. So back to that, when I was talking about earlier regarding the peace and the war training they was doing with basically BRICS nations, is called Exercise Rule for Peace 2026. Is what it's called. All right. And ultimately, we know that they're not going to have peace, right? Because they're about to go to war, and they all know it. They're preparing for it. You can't forget that Russia had already told its people to, build bunkers, for a nuclear war. Even Europe was doing that, right? That process didn't stop. Those bunkers and things were built and ready are put into place. The global elites started building bunkers or getting bunkers, buying bunkers. You had Rick Ross building his bunker, right? Different people getting bunkers. None of that has went away, right? It's all still here, and they're preparing for it. All right, let me grab this one, because they're saying Trump's Board of Peace is dividing countries in Europe and the Middle East, because ultimately, people are just, picking sides, at this point. Some people are saying, okay, cool, yeah, we'll join. Some people are like, what the hell are you talking about? We have a UN and all of that, right? So it says division emerged Wednesday over U.S. President Donald Trump's Board of Peace as its ambitions have grown beyond Gaza. Right, and that was the point. Russia was like, is it just a Gaza thing? Is it just a Palestinian thing? What, is there more to it? You need to be clear on that before we can accept anything. That's what they said. says with some Western European countries declining to join, others remaining non-committal, in a group of Muslim countries agreeing to sign on. And ultimately, they've been divided in other things too. They're divided right now with Greenland, right? They're divided on not so much, you know, they're divided on attack Iran. Basically as a whole, you have Donald Trump and Israel that's saying go for it, and then the other parties in the world saying don't go for it. So they're divided that way, because even with the NATO and EU, they're saying it's not a good idea. Cause instability, right? They already seen that when they sanctioned Russia, and they did nothing to Russia, but did everything to them, right? The Nord Stream pipeline was destroyed. Russia still did. They're suffering for that. That's another reason why they're hitting the whore, right, in these last days, because America is doing everything because Israel, right? Because then we heard about a new pipeline they wanted to build that's coming from, I forgot, but it's going to go through Turkey and then ultimately end up in Israel or something like that. So most everything America has been doing is because of these Amalekites, and they're divided for it because it's not really benefiting nobody, not even America, right? It's benefiting the pockets of Nero 47, and that's about it. This is Matthew 12:25. It says, and Yahweh knew their thoughts and said unto them, every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation, and every city or house divided against itself shall not stand. And if Satan cast out Satan, he is divided against himself. How shall then his kingdom stand? All right, and pretty much that's the point. All right. So going back over here, it says divisions emerged Wednesday over U.S. President Donald Trump's Board of Peace as its ambitions have grown beyond Gaza, with some Western European countries declining to join, others remaining non-committal, in a group of Muslim countries agreeing to sign on. It says that the developments underscored European concerns over the expanded and decisive scope of the project, which some say may seek to rival the UN Security Council. Let's see what this is all about. Because this is a big thing, you're trying to rival something that was set up. The UN Security Council is the primary UN body for maintaining global peace and security. So they already have that. And now Trump is trying to make a whole new Board of Peace. That's how big that is. This thing governs the whole world. It says with 15 members, 5 permanent: China, France, Russia, UK, US with veto power, and 10 elected non-permanent members serving 2-year terms. They can authorize sanctions, peacekeeping, and use of force, issuing binding resolutions for all UN members to uphold international law, addressing threats from conflicts to terrorism. And they've been trying to use this for the Gaza situation, and nothing has come out of it, right? And so now Trump is trying to do a new one, right? So that's how big his statements are regarding peace and safety in these last days. It says, which some say may seek to rival the UN Security Council role in mediating global conflicts. Trump is looking to form the board officially this week on the sidelines of the World Economic Forum meeting in Davos, Switzerland. Okay, so that's what's happening.
Follow, or are they? Because they're pressured into doing so, and they don't want to be on the wrong side of the United States, or really on the wrong side of Donald Trump.
Those are two very different things. I'm glad you phrased it that way. They don't want to be on the wrong side of Donald Trump. And we see that all over the world. Leaders, especially from weak countries, feel the coercive power of President Trump, and they have to try to get along. With strong countries, by the way, no coercion, right? Russia, China, they can do whatever they want. The weak countries have to get along, but they'll only do it for as long as they have to. And the minute he is no longer president, this thing falls apart. And therefore, I think they're just going to be hedging their bets, playing along, talking about committees, talking about future payments. But I think most leaders in the world, there'll be a few that will want to pal around with President Trump, but most leaders of the world want to be part of the current international community, the current United Nations, and hopefully see that someday the United States, not Mr. Trump, the United States might come back to that old international system as well.
You see, so they already have the UN set up, and now Trump is trying to do a whole new one. So that's very interesting, something to look at. We have the prophecies there regarding it, but once again, there's nothing that can be done right now. This is talking about us, right? But pursuant to Lamentations 4:20, which I'll read after this, that cup is now turned onto them, right? And you have things right here, Jeremiah. When I get to it, Jeremiah 30 and 40, regarding the lovers, Obadiah 1:7 says, I'll read this and I'll get to it. And I'll get to it. I'll go to that precept then. This is Jeremiah 30:11. It says, "For I am with thee," said the Lord Yahweh Bashmiyawashah, "to save thee. Though I make a full end of all nations, whether I have scattered thee, yet will I not make a full end of thee. But I will correct thee in measure and will not leave thee altogether unpunished." Right. So we were punished, and now, pursuant to Lamentations 4, right, it's the wicked's turn to drink that cup. All right, and that's exactly what's starting to happen now. It says, Lamentations 4:21, "Rejoice and be glad, O daughter of Edom, that dwellest in the land of Uz. The cup also shall pass through unto thee. Thou shalt be drunken, and thou shalt make thyself naked." Right, and that shameful stealing, right, is put upon them. Habakkuk 2:16. You have Isaiah 47:1 on down regarding that skirt being lifted up on them. Right. Lamentations 4:22, it says, "The punishment of thine iniquity is accomplished, O daughter of Zion. He will no more carry thee away into captivity. He will visit thine iniquity, O daughter of Edom. He will discover thy sins." So these devils are being, found out here in these last days. That's why we have this. It says, Jeremiah 30:12, "For thus saith the Lord Yahweh Bashmiyawashah, thy bruise is incurable, and thy wound is grievous." Mind you, once again, to point out, Donald Trump, is thinking that he's going to be here for a while. So all these plans that he's making, it's not like he's just making these plans just because. No, he's trying to secure his future, right? And ultimately, the only future these devils have is captivity. Okay. Jeremiah 30:12, it says, "For thus saith the Lord Yahweh Bashmiyawashah, thy bruise is incurable, thy wound is grievous. There is none to plead thy cause, that thou mayest be bound up. Thou hast no healing medicine. All thy lovers have forgotten thee, they seek thee not. For I have wounded thee with the wound of an enemy, with the chastisement of a cruel one, for the multitude of thine iniquity, because thy sins were increased." Right. And we know that this devil's lovers, his friends, right, is going to turn on him in these last days because of what he's doing. Right. Obadiah 1:7 says, "All your allies will turn against you. They will help to chase you from your land. They will promise you peace while plotting to deceive and destroy you." So as you can see, the more they talk about peace, that's just a cover story for the destruction that's coming. They will promise you peace while plotting to deceive and destroy you. Your trusted friends will set traps for you and you won't even know about it. Just in KJV. "All the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee and have rebelled against thee. They that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee, and there is none understanding in him." Right, so he don't see it coming. Right, and we have 18 and 17. Right, the 10 horns. Revelation 17:16, it says the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast. Right, these 10 horns represent the NATO EU. It says the 10 horns which thou seest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. Right, so they will be along, with Russia, and the many people going with Russia to attack America. Okay. Jeremiah 30:14, "All thy lovers have forgotten thee, they seek thee not. For I have wounded thee with the wound of an enemy, with the chastisement of a cruel one, for the multitude of thine iniquity, because thy sins were increased." Right, so there is no healing of the bruise. The bruise is incurable for these devils. Right, and pretty much, this border peace thing is another cry for help. All right. Border peace. Okay, so pretty much that's all I got. Lord willing, you are edified from the lesson. Shalom to the whole elect, which consists of men, women, and children. Shalom.